Morning.
I see, Jim.
So normally we'd be together having done a scan on InBody and you'd be telling me how much I've lost or put on and all that. But so I guess the starting point is to explain why that's not happening this morning. Um, I did a real number on my hand a few weeks ago. A gashed finger, there's tendon damage, and the headline is not only can I not lift weights or do any of that stuff, but I can't drive. So I can't get down to sunny Seven Oaks to have the check in. So what have we been doing to define where I'm at and where's my weight at today? For the benefit of people that saw the very first episode when we had the trailer and then episode one, you'll know I got weighed on InBody. What you don't know is I came home that night and I also weighed myself on my scales at home, even though I'd been told all day scale metrics are don't pay any attention to him, just throw your scales out. But interestingly, we saw that my scales were really close to the InBody. In fact, at home, I was showing I was marginally heavier than what the InBody results come. So we wouldn't know. I think it's fair to say, Jordan, we wouldn't normally go by a scale metric, but in this scenario, we know it's quite close to what you will see from a weight position on InBody, right?
Absolutely. I obviously had no idea you went home and weighed yourself on your own scale. So the fact that you did that obviously has some value now. The fact that it's close together as well shows there's a level of consistency between the weight number that we had on InBody, but then also the weight measurement that you had at home as well.
I'll tell you why I did it, and this is just my curious mind. Years ago, my wife bought them, and I won't say the brand because I don't want to be disparaging to them, but they were named hyper accurate. So, having done the InBody scan earlier in the day, I was curious whether they really are hyper accurate. Turned out they were. So, that was the only reason I did it. But, headline on our first scan, I've got to remember the kilograms now. I know you operate more in kilograms. I typically operate in stone. You've got the data from.
114.2.
Sorry, say that again.
114.2 kilograms.
Which, for those looking in the stone metrics, that puts was about 18 stone 9 pounds. I mean, it was properly getting up there. I don't mind saying now that I knew I was unfit, I knew I was bad, but when I weighed myself and saw that, I thought, oh my goodness, I'm a lot worse than I realised. So where are we at today? 10 weeks on, I weigh 101 kilos, which sort of translating that into I'm stone. I think I'm right in. Oh, you've probably got the data in front of you, have you not, Jordan?
We're 13.2 kilograms lighter over the course of the last 10 weeks,
Now,
which
I
equates
remember.
into 2 stone, just over 2 stone.
I, I'll tell you why I'm smiling about that because, again, going back to that first session, you asked me how much do I want to lose. I know I plucked an arbitrary number, but 2 stone was my original goal. If I got 2 stone away, I thought I'd be really happy with that. And you said very calmly, we can get that done in 24 weeks. So to have that squared away in 10 weeks is astonishing. And I find it astonishing for a couple of reasons. And this will be important to anyone that's ever struggled with their weight and struggled with training programs. In years gone by, I've trained hard, lost weight, got bored with it, got injured. It's become an effort. You've woken up in the morning really tired or sore and thought, oh, I just can't face it today. But what you've taught me means I don't wake up feeling like that and I have the energy to go again. So I thought it'd be a really good question to ask. What the heck did we do? Meaning that we could lose 2 stone in 10 weeks and have me at a point where I can consistently go again and I don't find that boredom. You spoke about levers. Where did we start? What did you have me do to lose this 2 stone?
I think the first thing to really focus on, CJ, that we talked a lot about was the habits and the day-to-day processes, being able to create a system that was ultimately sustainable. The amount of people that lose weight, put weight back on, and go through their life on that vicious hamster wheel, that cycle of losing it, adding it back on, plus a little bit more, losing a bit, and just consistently not looking at exercise and health and well-being through a longer term lens. We talked a lot about that at the start, and the actual psychology that is involved with the behavior change and what we wanted to do. We looked at nutrition. Anybody that wants to make a positive change with body composition, whether it's losing body fat, building muscle, improving performance, we have to understand from a nutritional standpoint what that looks like. So we created your bespoke precision nutrition plan. We got complete clarification on what that would look like on a daily basis, and then we monitored it. So you obviously uploaded your nutrition on a daily basis. I was so pleased with what I was seeing early on. I was seeing that you fully grasped what the nutrition looked like. We were focusing on lean sources of protein, complex, slow releasing carbohydrates, lots of fruit and veg for the gut, for the immune system. You went and bought your 3 litre jug of water. You reduced the coffee. You worked on your sleep. And we just got the day to day sorted very, very quickly. And this is what health can do. When we focus on what we do on a daily basis, after 4, 8, 12, 16, etc. weeks, we can really start to create a system that delivers results on repeat. So similar to business, showing up, doing the right things day after day, week after week leads to really life-changing progress. And that's what you did. Obviously, we supported you along the way, but how you implemented quickly with the information that we shared. And let's not forget that first scan was confronting. The camera was behind us. There was a lot of scary, confronting figures and data points that we were exposing to people. And to see where you're at now, just over 10 weeks later, is so rewarding, so fulfilling. And you've obviously had a busy life. You're running the business, you have a young family, you've obviously had the injury to your hand, and we still made that progress. It's down to the effort and the consistency that you've brought.
Joe, it's not been plain sailing. I don't mind saying that. There's really three moments that stuck out to me. The first one would you've just spoken about it at the induction and getting that data, but the truth of the matter is, and I know you say this far better than I, the majority of people only act on their health after they've had a major incident in their life, and it can in some cases be too late at that point, or you're on the back foot. I know I came really close. My blood pressure in January of this year, I shudder saying this, but I was 145 over 120. So both the diastolic and systolic numbers were high, and I was officially in level 2 hypertension. Doctors at the time were wanting me to have medication, but I had some things going on with the business that needed my focus. And if I'm honest, it was easy for me to go and prioritize the business and not have to deal with the health, because I didn't want to deal with the health. I did have to focus on work, but it was convenient me focusing on work. And then when we started talking around August, you told me about one of your clients had suffered with type 2 diabetes, didn't want to take the medication, and had transformed their life through training. And at the time, you really didn't know what you were saying to me. But when we had that data and you were talking about the visceral fat and you used those words, this is the hard, yellow, dangerous stuff compounded around the organs. I, in my head, was also hearing 145 over 120, the need for medication. If you look back at that footage, I think my eyes glaze over. There's a moment where I'm not hearing what any of you are saying, and I'm probably thinking, I don't really want the cameras on me right now. But I needed that moment to make me front up to a problem and realize I've got to do something about this. I have a very long drive back from Sevenoaks, where you guys are, to the Vale of Pewsey in Wiltshire, where I live. It's a good sort of 2.5 hours on a good day. Bizarrely, I needed that journey time to kind of process my thoughts and get my head around it. That we did the check-in on Thursday. The Friday night, I went out with friends, and I didn't want to deal with it. I had 4 beers. I got home, and I didn't sleep at all that night. It was properly playing on my mind. what had happened on a Thursday, the data. And on that Saturday morning, sat down with Hayley and said, look, we've got to do, Hayley's my wife, got to do something about this. And she was brilliant. She said, well, okay, give me the nutrition plan. We'll sort out the food. Just follow what Jordan tells you and we'll figure it out. So that was the catalyst of just doing. And what you guys were helping me do is don't worry about the physiology or the biology or the science. Just follow these steps and the rest will take care of itself. And what my wife was doing was, I'll figure out the food, we'll get the rubbish out of the house, we'll get the good stuff in, and we'll just follow the plan for a couple of weeks and see how we go. So it meant all I had to focus on was getting up, getting moving, when am I doing my activities? And I think in hindsight, that was a really good thing for me, just to be able to focus on one thing, as it were. And I think bizarrely that actually helped with the habit forming, because I would go out and walk. I would then be thirsty, so I'd have to hydrate. I'd be hungry, so I'd eat. We had the good food. And then by about day 3, I could feel my energy levels coming up, which was like, okay, what this guy's telling me isn't a fallacy here. This is genuinely having an impact, and it's been a few days. So then you give it another week and your energy levels are gone again. And then all of a sudden you're thinking, blimey, this is great. Then we had our first check-in. Well, my in-body score had leapt a ridiculous number of points. And seeing how excited you were about it, I really fed off that, because those numbers didn't mean anything to me, if I'm really honest. But because you kept coming and say, I vividly remember it, you may think you know how good that was, but you don't know how good that was, right? The fact that you kept banging the drum about this made me then, well, I've got to go and look into this. And then my confidence went up, and you think, well, okay, this is having an impact. The visceral fat's come down a bit. We've gone down a few levels. And then on those cold days, you get up and go again and go again and go again. Training in the storms has not been fun. I would happily go a lifetime without having to do that again. But comparably, Jordan, training on mornings where it's clear, sunny, and a lovely sunrise is coming up, they're easy mornings to go out and do stuff. But those routines are key for people, right? The food, the hydration, movement, training activities, they're the fundamentals that anyone wanting to lose weight needs to get to grips with.
Completely. And I'll go back to habits. What do them daily habits look like for that individual, aligned with the outcomes that they want? So for us, we've been very direct in understanding this is a fat loss phase that we're going through. It's an intense fat loss phase, in a sense that we want to reduce body fat and visceral fat, I don't want to say as quickly as possible, but as efficiently as possible, and get that to a much more healthier, more manageable place to show up and enjoy life from. So we looked at step count. Let's get that step count up. Let's get the body moving. And I know you've shared some data around what your step count looked like prior to the program towards that now. So we're thinking about how can we expend more energy? How can we move more? We're then thinking about what is the quality of fuel that we're putting into our body, and what are then meal timings looking like. So we always spoke about 3 main meals a day, focus on protein, focus on fruit and veg, and then the slow releasing carbohydrates. So we've got complex carbohydrates, we've got simple carbohydrates. So many people overconsume simple carbohydrates. Those are sugars, cereal bars, where we get a quick spike of energy. Think about a croissant in the morning or pastry, we get a quick spike of energy, and then half an hour, 45 minutes later, we're hungry again. We focused on slow releasing carbohydrates, so we had that slow, sustainable release of energy throughout the day. We then looked at protein, at keeping the body more satiated, and then we looked at the actual quality of the micronutrients, so the fruit and veg, to keep the gut healthy, the immune system strong. I remember seeing you after a few weeks thinking, is this guy wanting a holiday that he hasn't told us about, or is he using the sunbeds now? But you were literally glowing, and that's the impact of putting better fuel into your body. We get better outcomes based upon that. And then we looked at the training. With resistance training, we use that to either build muscle mass, maintain muscle mass, and make the body physically stronger. So bone density, joint health, range of movement, range of control. And then we look at cardiovascular fitness as a way of improving the heart, the lungs, and energy production. You were doing all this on a weekly basis. There were some weeks it was challenging, some weeks we had to amend the program. doing that aligned with the steps, the nutrition, and then the sleep you were getting,
Oh, that's
it was
transformed.
really, yeah,
That's really transformed. Do you know, you mentioned the data. We'll put some data up on screen now. I think the thing that underlines your movement bit. So in January of this year, my average daily active energy was just 274 calories. So I was sat at my desk, not moving, not doing anything. How does that translate to today? Well, I'm averaging 979 active calories a day, right? So Jordan's far definitely the expert on this, but we've learned from that in-body data that if I wake up in the morning and I do nothing, my body burns around about 1,958 calories. I think it might have just broken the 2,000 mark, but it was in and around that number. And then the active movement on top is the additional calories that we burn on top of it. So most days now, I'm in and around the kind of 2,900 to 3,600, depending on the training that I've done. If I do a long ride, like the day I did a 25-mile ride, I was up around 4,500 calories. And days that I do a 5K run, I'm definitely in and around the 3,400 calories. But my meal plans, I'm very rarely going over 2,100 calories going in. So, meaning every day we're in a calorie deficit, but I'm not hungry. That's been the big takeaway. The protein led plans, whether you think it's a fad or whatever, just seriously go and try it, because taking high amounts of protein in and having the smarts to vary the proteins and vary the meals, it's not repetitive. You're not eating raw eggs and protein powder like Rocky Balboa would have you believe from the 1970s. The nutrition can be really enjoyable, and that's been a big change in my life. The feeling I get from the micronutrients and the vegetables now, there's no going back on that. While we've got you, I know you've got another meeting you have to get to, Jordan. I want to talk about goal setting going forward, because obviously we've achieved a lot. The two stones come down within a time frame neither of us could have hoped. I go into Christmas in the best shape I've been in for about 10 years. That's no exaggeration. Probably closer to 15 years back when I was still playing a bit of amateur rugby, if I'm honest with you. Where do we go from here? What does the next 14 weeks have for us? What should we be aiming for?
great question. And it's ultimately a conversation that we'll have with an individual where they're at now and what's important to them going forward. My recommendations in terms of the fat loss phase that we're in at the minute, we use Christmas as a chance to maintain. So enjoy the festivities with your family. Look back in the last 10 to 11 weeks with confidence, with pride, with what you've achieved. Move your body, enjoy your food, enjoy that quality time with the people that actually matter, and take so much belief in what you've achieved to date. And then that sets us up for a big 2025. In terms of our fat loss phase, if I was recommending aligned with where you want to go to CJ, I would be looking at totaling our fat loss to between 3.5 to 4 stone by the end of 24 weeks. Now, that is a punchy target. I never brought that up at the start because I wanted us to get quick wins. I wanted us to see what was actually possible and what was achievable. We've done just over 2 stone in 10 weeks. We've obviously got the festive period coming up, but we'll be looking at us finishing the initial 24 weeks at 3.5 to 4 stone of fat loss. Getting you to that place, I've said it to you before, we're only 15 to 20% into the way that you're actually going to feel and show up in life. There's still so many more levers to pull that we haven't even got to yet. When you get to that place, which is inevitable, your experience of health and energy and vitality and how you will enjoy the next 30, 40, 50 years of your life is going to be so different to what we felt over the last 10, 15 years that you've alluded to. So I will be looking at 3.5 to 4 stone of fat loss by the end of the 24-week program.
And you off camera, you were telling me about some of the insight and data you got around InBody. So off of that original InBody scan, you can actually see what my optimal weight should be from a physiology. And we think that's around 84, 85 kilograms of weight,
Yep.
meaning rudimentary amount. 16 kilos is what we've got to shift. And we've just done, what, 13?
Yeah.
So
13 and
same again and a bit more, right? Is really what we've got to do. The other question I wanted to put to you, because I had lots of people ask me about this. On camera, I've regaled some of the things that you've said, that my fat burning zone opens at around about 122 beats per minute, and my optimal fat burning heart rate, is 136 beats per minute. I've had a lot of people say to me, how do you know that? I know this data came off of the VO2 max test we did. What did we learn? How do we define that?
Such a great question, and it's an area that people are becoming increasingly interested in understanding about cardiovascular zones, energy zones. Zone 2 and Zone 5 is where we want to spend our time. Zone 3 and 4 can often be referred to as the dead zones, as in there's not a lot of return for spending time in them zones. So when we test a VO2 max, it's called a metabolic chart test. We can actually see on the graphs where your body shifts from Zone 2 using fat as fuel to then into Zone 3, 4, and 5, and what that shift in energy looks like. So the only way to properly define that is by doing a VO2 max test. We can look at things like smartwatches or my zones, but they're guesstimations of what the data actually should be. So when we have the data presented to us, the accurate data, we can really understand what them zones look like and then what the shifts are from Zone 2 to Zone 5.
I'll tell you why people should pay attention to this, and it blew my mind. This, I used to get in the saddle. I've ridden 25-mile, 26-mile distances before. I would normally sort of go flat out, as most cyclists would. You get into a rhythm, and it's all about getting around as quick as possible. Can I get my average mile per hour up? Can we ascend? I mean, even the Strava data, once you're getting through segments quicker with your gold, silver, bronze award, right? But what I realized is 136 beats for me in the saddle is not flat out tapping it out. And in fact, the discipline ride that I had to do meant I was backing off full pace and going slower than I wanted to. But when I correlated the calorie burn off of the discipline ride from the calorie burn of years ago when I was flat out, the slower, more disciplined ride burnt a hell of a lot more. And that was a point I was like thinking, okay, so this is worth parking the ego and letting people overtake you and fly up hills ahead of you. Just ignore all of that. The training programs you put to people, and you said it at the start, you meet people where they're at. You are not going to ask people to be flat out throwing ridiculous weights around, exhausting themselves 24/7. It's about manageable activity that optimizes the fat burn to optimize a weight loss, correct?
Completely. We meet people exactly where they are at and create the program based upon that. So the actual system in the program, even though the principles are the same, in essence, that we want to build muscle, have strong muscles, improve cardiovascular fitness, improve metabolic and mitochondrial health, which is Zone 2. How we allocate training time for each individual is based upon where they're at and what their actual goals and aspirations are. And that's why your body's been a fat burning machine at the minute, because of your walking, that you had access to Zone 2, because of your cycling, because of your nutrition and hydration and recovery and stress management, good quality sleep. Your body's literally burning fat for fun at the minute. It's going to keep continuing.
And I think that's the one message I would have for anyone that's overweight, thinks they can't train. Anyone can get out and do a walk, and anyone can go for a 20, 30 minute. It doesn't matter whether it's the slowest walk on the planet. What I realized was walking, getting the heart rate up, I was getting into that zone too. Because of the excess weight I had, the body was working quite hard. You're burning fat when you're doing that. So whilst you think it's just a walk, you're not running, you're not throwing weights, you're not riding, you are positively impacting the problem. So that's where you start. The hydration, I thought I was really well hydrated, nowhere near. I have 3 litres most days, 3.1 to 3.2 litres a day. Oh my God, it transforms everything. And Jordan nudged on it. The sleep, I get 7 hours of sleep, and I'm in the most stressed state of the year at the moment. It's my busiest 2 weeks of the year. I'm still getting blocks of sleep. And years gone by, I'd be up at 2, 3, 4 a.m. in the morning, not sleeping well. So this stuff works. If you've got a weight problem, you want to lose weight, you should talk to these guys. The science and the intelligence and smarts you get is absolutely brilliant. Jordan, I know you've got another meeting to get to, so I will let you go. Thank you for that. And then once I can start the resistance training again, we'll pick that up. But for the time being, I'll carry on doing the cardio training as we've agreed, the bike, the jogging. I suppose that's the parting sentiment. Where's my fitness at now? I'm doing 5K runs most days and I'm not aching and my recovery is so good, I can go again the same day. I would never have been able to do that years ago. The stuff works.
One thing I wanted to finish on is so many people focus on what they actually can't do. You've got the issue with a finger, you've got so much going on with your life at the minute in terms of getting rid of business for Christmas, getting all that done, and you're still making progress. So many people think, I can't do this. Just start with what you have, and then the rest looks after itself. So that's all I have to finish with.
It's a really good point. And as the data shows you, just doing those walks consistently, your activity comes up, your average comes up. My resting heart rate has come down. I mentioned blood pressure. I should say, where am I at? Because this is a really important point. I am now in the normal level. I had blood pressure readings done in the last week. We've got some screenshots to put up on screen here. I've gone from level 2 hypertension down to normal blood pressure readings in just 10 weeks, guys. I never thought that was going to happen. And it all comes from following basic advice and getting active. I can't talk highly enough of the program. You should look into it, make it happen. Jordan, thank you so much for your time. We'll see you again.
Thanks, CJ.